What is going on, guys? Welcome to Greg's TV Daily Rewind. This is where we go back a week and give you all of your tech news stories from the past 7 days in one single video. You can probably hear my son talking in the background. He's talking so loud. So if you hear some talking, that's why. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about, Galaxy S22, we go into the processor talk about this. It's going to have the Snapdragon 898 or the Exynos 2200 in some parts. And we talk about the performance and what you should expect from those processors, as well as the S22 in general, prices, everything. There's a ton of news today, this week, tons. A lot of thinking pieces too. So enjoy this week, and we'll see you in the next one.
First, our first story of the day is about this phone, the Google Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. And one of my hugest, biggest, probably most pet peeves about this phone is the fingerprint sensor and how slow / unreliable it can be at times. Enough to where you're like, dude, I'd rather just unlock the phone with the screen unlock feature, like the swipe feature, not the fingerprint sensor. But with that said, why is it so slow? Why is it so inaccurate at times? And it seems like Google has come out and said that it's a feature that is causing this. So on Twitter, Ian reached out to Google saying, I do love my Pixel 6, but the fingerprint sensor is ruining my experience more often than not. I touch the sensor 6 or 7 times before it makes me enter my PIN. I'm holding out for a software fix, but it's something that makes me want to get rid of it if it persists. And Google responded, we're sorry for the hassle. The Pixel 6 fingerprint sensor utilizes enhanced security algorithms. In some instances, these added protections can take longer to verify or require more direct contact with the sensor. Try troubleshooting steps. Now, ultimately, we know there's not going to be a way to make that better, probably, unless they really do put out an update. And that's where we're kind of at with this phone. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. I've mentioned it from the day that I got it, pretty much in the videos that where I was able to mention it. I hope to God they push out an update that really loosens its ties on it. But I kind of think it's more hardware than software, if I had to guess. They're saying it's more software than hardware. I actually think it's more hardware than software. But again, maybe I'm completely wrong. Hopefully they do put a fix in for that, because right now it's kind of annoying. And I know my sister just got the phone and she cannot stand the fingerprint sensor on there, so. Next up is about the Galaxy S22 series of phones. If you know from past generations of Galaxy S series of phones, generally it's been pretty much split into 2 series. Like, most of the world will get the Snapdragon series, the rest of the world will get the Exynos series. To where we're living in a world where, like, the people that have the Snapdragon generally get much better performance than the people that get the Exynos series of the phone. And it's been going back and forth with, you know, oh, the Korean market is going to get the Exynos 2200 and it's going to have an AMD GPU in it, and then the rest of the world or whatever will get the Snapdragon, and so on and so forth. Where do we stand with this? Well, there's some rumors coming out that might make people kind of happy. So check out this latest rumor. This is being talked about by Let's Go Digital, which I think they pulled it from a Korean YouTuber or something, but ultimately it says, Samsung equips all Galaxy S22 models with the Qualcomm chip. Exclusive also in Europe, like S22 models are powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon SoC and not by Exynos 2200 and AMD GPU. And we also look at a tweet from Ishan Agarwal who says, rumors suggest that Snapdragon 898, or whatever the new Qualcomm Snapdragon flagship chipset will be called, for Samsung S22 series worldwide. Looks like we are all getting the Snapdragon S series flagship from Samsung in India after a long wait. Please be true. Now, I want to also talk about, there's also people talking on the opposite end that things haven't changed, that people that generally did get the Exynos version of the processor on the Galaxy phones will still get the Exynos version, and that this rumor is incorrect. So I want to tell you guys that, so don't go by thinking like it's definitely going to happen, because it might not. It's going both ways right now. Both stories are very, very similar because they both have to deal with the OneUI4 Beta. As you know, OneUI4 Beta is out for the S21 series, it's out for the Z Fold 3 and the Z Flip 3, and now it's rolling out some places with the Galaxy S20 series and also the Note 20 series. So if you have those phones It won't hurt you at all, if you want to sign up for the beta, that is, to go into the Samsung members app and look for the banner towards the top to sign up for the new beta. Again, it's not available everywhere, but you probably want to check as time goes on, but it is rolling out in a lot of places, so you should hopefully be able to get it for the Note 20 series or the S20 series if you have one of those phones, to spice up your phone a little bit, give it some more pep in its step, to make it feel fresh and new again. Why not? I mean, I got it on my Z Fold 3. And I don't know, it feels like it's running better. It feels like it's a little bit smoother. I don't have any bugs that really irritate me to the point where I'd be like, oh God, I really wish I didn't upgrade. I know some of you were concerned with that, but this is my daily phone. I use it all the time. I use all the same apps I used before, from social media apps to the camera, to web browsing apps, a little bit of gaming, videos, all that stuff works perfectly fine for me. So I'm not too worried about recommending you to get the update as well at this point in time. If you're concerned with it, you should be okay. Worst comes to worst, you can revert back with it if you want or need to. First story of the day is about the Galaxy S22 line of phones, and this is more of a reminder and something to know, and I've mentioned this multiple times, but I kind of want to drive the point in because it seems like Samsung is on a path to rekindle its love with the same exact cameras that we've seen for the past, basically, now it's going to be 3 iterations of the S20 phones, S20, S21, S22, and again, cover around the Ultras as well, that they're going to potentially use all the same cameras as they have those past 3 iterations of each of one of those phones. Now, the reason I say this is because Android Police just put out an article reminding us, and again, I want to drive it home, new camera rumors bring our picture of the Samsung Galaxy S22 further into focus, and then you can see the headline below that. There might not be any major improvements over last year's phone, and if you dive deeper into it, they talk about the phone's cameras basically having the same megapixels as the previous generation, and so on and so forth, and that the only thing that will probably come out of this is some tweaking to the camera. And when by tweaking, usually that means they're going to tweak the software, which means they could also tweak the software on the previous iterations and get very similar results with those previous phones. So it's seemingly a way to cut costs. They don't have to use something new. It's something they already know about. That way they can improve the software further and further, and potentially still give you a great camera experience, but not maybe as good as maybe what iPhone's doing, or what Pixel's doing, or what Xiaomi's doing, or what Huawei's doing, but keep their prices fairly low, but still make you happy at the end of the day. Next up, as you can see from this tweet from Mr. Steve McFly, also known as OnLeaks, saying he's back from the future again, this time with the very first and early looks at the OnePlus 10 Pro. And when we look at this photo, this is a crazy looking phone in the back there. I kind of find it a little bit ugly. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll get used to it, but it's definitely not the most pretty result of cameras on the back there. It's a tri-camera setup, aka 3 cameras with a flash. What do you guys think? You liking that? I'm not a huge fan of that. And then to dive a little bit deeper into some of the other information that's been let out of the bag for this, you can see the base model of the OnePlus 10 Pro is expected to have 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, leading up to 12 gigabytes and 256 gigs of storage. In addition to that, the device is expected to feature an LTPO Fluid 2 AMOLED display that measures 6.7 inches and comes with a 20:9 aspect ratio, 120 hertz refresh rate. While the official list of specs has not been announced yet, check out some of the expected specs for the OnePlus 10 Pro. You can see the dimensions. You can see the display, again, 6.7 inch with basically a 2K plus display resolution, battery at 5,000 milliamps, and then you can get anywhere between 128 all the way up to 256 gigs of storage, 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM. First story and only story of the day before we get into the questions, like I said, is about the Snapdragon 898 benchmark versus the benchmark we've got on the Galaxy S21 Ultra with a Snapdragon 888. Now I want you to know, first and foremost, that the benchmark scores that we're seeing with the 898, these are not finalized. Nothing's final. The software is not finalized. The processor is probably really not completely finalized. So the scores we're seeing, they are lower, at least in multi-core score, versus what we got with the Snapdragon 888. So I want you to keep that in mind, so don't freak out, but it is kind of telling and interesting how low the score is comparatively speaking. So let's first talk about the score that we got with the Snapdragon 888. And we can see that the Snapdragon 888, this is on the S21 Plus, but still, it's basically the same phone, albeit, you know, slightly lower resolution on the screen and then less RAM potentially, but ultimately the same processor. So score of 966 on the single core. Now, when we get to the multi-core score, you're looking at a score of 3044. Again, that's for the S21 Plus. They just, for whatever reason, didn't do the Ultra version of that phone on this site. And when we pull up this Sam Mobile article showing that the Snapdragon-based S22 Plus for the USA runs better in the latest benchmark. Check this out. Again, this would be the Snapdragon 898. Gets a score of 1163, so it beat it in the single core, but it lost on the multi-core score. It got 2728. And hopefully the scores will definitely increase, and I expect they will, because this is a newer, potentially more powerful processor. But it's a bit of a turnoff for sure. Like thinking like, and I've said it in some previous videos, especially one that I did recently, about things not to expect from the S22 series of phones, especially the Ultra version. Like, I don't expect to see huge performance gains, if any, really, versus last year's processors. Maybe I do expect a little bit, but nothing crazy, nothing monumental. And it's like, have we plateaued? Has Snapdragon really plateaued? Has Qualcomm reached a point where they don't offer any really performance boost? And it's not like we really need it. Phones run amazing right now. And I think the thing that we need better is like amazing battery, like battery that lasts 24 hours, battery, like that should be the next goal. Is like, we have these phones that can do so much and they run really well and they perform really well, but the batteries, it's a mixed bag. I'll get, 4 hours, you might get 8 hours. Why can't we just get 24 hours? Why can't they improve the battery technology with the newer technologies that potentially could be out for that? But yeah, kind of interesting to see that the Galaxy S21 Plus / Ultra, whatever you want to call it, because it uses the same processor, the 888, versus the S22 Plus / Ultra using the 898. The new one has basically, especially on the multi-core, worse scores. So let me know what our first story of the day is about the prices that we should see for the Galaxy S22, S22 Plus, and S22 Ultra, and be prepared. As much as I thought these prices were going to drop or be more competitive with the market, it does not seem like that will be the case with this series of phones, and it's kind of a disappointment. So check this out. This is coming, it's a mixture. It's basically coming from Chun and Tron. Tron went a little bit more in depth, but basically what you're looking at here is that the S22, the regular version, will start out at $899 for the base version. These are USA prices. $1099 for the S22 Plus, and a $1299 price for the S22 Ultra. So I was really expecting the S22 Ultra to probably be in the $1099, $1199 price range, not $1299. This is pretty disappointing in a way, because with their competition, you look at the Pixel 6 Pro, which I know a lot of you like it. I know some of you that don't like it. But ultimately, that is a flagship phone, and that is a flagship phone with a price tag starting off at $899, which theoretically is $400 cheaper than the premium version of the S22 Ultra. Now, to add on to that, you're looking at iPhones, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 13 Pro Max starts off at $1099 for $128. So again, that's a $100 to $200 price increase versus that phone. And you probably might ask, what is the reasoning for these price increases? Seemingly, it's probably due to this chip shortage that's been plaguing the industry, from cars to phones to televisions to microwaves to anything else that needs a chip. You're looking at, that's probably the reason that they're unable to really drop the price of these. Very unfortunate. Tell me what you guys think about the prices in the comments down below. Next story is about the Exynos 2200 processor, which does have some affiliation with AMD. AMD is going to handle the GPU or the graphics side of it, and we're going to talk about some performances, what it is versus the 2100 and the Snapdragon 888. So let's dive into this tweet. This comes from Tron. Tron says, exclusive official benchmark compared to the Exynos 2100, the Exynos 2200 GPU has a 17 to 20% sustained performance boost over that processor last year. It also at peak has a 31 to 34% increase in performance compared to the Snapdragon 888. The Exynos 2200 GPU has a big difference in the 3D Mark performance, and then that's an ARM v9 processor version 9, and performance results based on pre-release hardware and software subject to change. So ultimately, when you break this down, it's probably on the CPU side, which is going to handle, you know, processing type events. It's going to be very similar to its competition, 2100, Snapdragon 888 and 898, but then ultimately on the 3D side for gaming and anything else that uses GPU, you're looking at a fairly significant jump, anywhere between 17 to 34% increases in gaming and other 3D intense apps. I'm not a gamer on here, so I probably wouldn't even notice a difference. And the games I do play are like word games or like match 3 games, and you don't need a lot of processing power to run those well. This is really going to be for games such as like Fortnite, or I don't even know what else is 3D, Call of Duty, any game that's 3D that needs a lot of power. This is probably the version of the phone you'd want to get, because it should theoretically have much better performance in 3D graphics versus any other phone that's on the market at that time, maybe albeit an iPhone. First question of the day comes from Mr. D's product review channel. It says most people either replace their phone every 1 or 2 years. If there were to be a replacement cycle of once every 5 years, in your opinion, would you recommend for the majority of people to get an upper mid-price tier phone, or for them to go all out and get one that they can grow into over the 5 years? It's a great question. I'd probably, to be honest with you, I'd probably just tell everybody to get an iPhone. I think those age really, really well over time. Don't get me wrong, I think Samsung phones have been doing a lot better in that department. The Google phones will probably do really, really well too, but I think I'd say just get an iPhone, and at that point you could probably get almost any 11, 12, or 13 iPhone and be fine with it for 5 years. Wanhu Choi, for charging speed for the S22 Ultra, is it going to be 65 watts? Because some say that it is, and some say that it is canceled and go 45 watts instead. What do you think? I think it's going to be 40. Who knows? I mean, I'm the same. I've heard it both ways. 65 watt and 45 watt. I heard 45 watt wireless, and I've heard 65 watt wired. I'm going to drop a little fortune dust on this to hopefully it will happen. I think we're going to see 65 watt wired charging and 45 watt wireless charging. Shajil Shazadi, Greg, don't think the S22 Ultra price increase is acceptable, considering that it has an integrated S Pen and will come with the S Pen included in the box. But what do you think about the S22 and S22 Plus? I think the price should drop for those, the S22 Plus be only $50 to $100 more than the S22, as the S22 Plus is only a bigger S22. So really the same phone. What's the thought that they should the S22 start at $649, S22 at $699, considering it has a plastic back with full HD plus resolution? I think those are great prices. I really think they need to compete. At least one of those phones needs to compete with the Pixel 6 phone, which starts at $599. It should be $599, $699 or $799, and then the Ultra should be like $999. That's my opinion. It's not going to happen, but I think that's what they should do. Orlando Vintez, is it sad that sometimes I'm more interested in your shows than what people, my wife, have to say? Thanks, I guess. Don't tell your wife that. I mean, if you think about it like this, okay, you're interested in with what you're interested in. I feel like sometimes, especially when you're married, you know, it can get serious sometimes. It's not a lot of fun as much anymore because you get into the adult routine, and you know, watching tech news or watching YouTube is kind of a release. And sometimes the wife or the husband really isn't a release anymore because you've been together for so long, and you kind of just, you know, in this life grind together. New York's finest, now that we know the S22 Ultra will be significantly higher than the Pixel Pro, would you recommend us getting the Pixel Pro, or should we still wait for the S22 Ultra? Obviously, if you need S Pen compatibility, you have to go with the S22 Ultra. But with that said, I think everything else, except for the brighter screen, I really love bright screen. So like, I'd probably still, if someone needs a bright screen, I'd probably still stare them into the S22 Ultra. But beyond that, it's a tough decision there, because even if there's bugs, which I don't use the Pixel 6 Pro as my main phone, but you know, when I do use it, I don't run into that many bugs with it. I know some people have more bugs than the others, depending upon what they do with it, but those bugs will be ironed out with updates. And then the S22 Ultra won't be here for another few months. It's a tough decision. Both of them are going to be amazing phones. I think the better question is like, if you, well, not even, because the S22 Ultra does take nice photos and going to have hopefully increased photo capabilities. But I don't know, if photos are your main thing, and especially if people get these Pixel 6 Pro, everything else is probably going to be better with the S22 Ultra. And our last question of the day comes from Hi Greg. How was your day? It was good. Anyways, I was wondering how durable the Z Fold series for day-to-day usage is. I want to keep a phone for the next 3 or 4 years. And also, do you think Samsung would lower the price of the S22 Note at launch, since it was basically using some of the same specs as the previous generation? Have a wonderful day. So, using the Z Fold 3 day-to-day for 3 or 4 years, I'll be honest, I'd be a little wary of that. Like, if I knew someone was gonna have a phone for 3 or 4 years and they don't have an insurance plan, especially after the 3rd or 4th year, I'd be very hesitant of saying, yeah, the Z Fold 3 will probably be fine. I don't know. I'd be a little worried about it. There's a great possibility it'll still be fine, but I don't know, it just would worry me some. But otherwise, I think the phone would be great. I think some of the camera obviously won't age well, I don't think in 4 years, but it's definitely passable. Even now, it still takes some great photos with good lighting. And then the rest of your question was all about, will they lower the price of the S22 Note, Ultra, whatever they end up calling it? No, I don't think they're going to. I think it's going to be that $12.99 price that we've been seeing, and I don't think you're going to see much lower than that. If you do, it's going to be $11.99, which is still pretty high compared to the competition. Very slow news day again, but we have a cool thinking piece today, so we'll dive into that. And we also have a bunch of questions, so let's dive into the quote-unquote tech news / thought of the day. It has to do with this phone, the Galaxy Z Fold 3 and Galaxy Z Fold 4, more so the 4 more than anything, but we have to think about this before we can think about the 4, and that has to do because I saw a tweet from the Galax talking about what he would like to see in the Galaxy Z Fold 4. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about his tweet. His tweet says, what I want the spec sheet of the Z Fold 4 to be. So he's saying a 50 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 10 megapixel 3x telephoto, 6.2 inch on the front screen, 7.6 inch 120 hertz AMOLED display, new ultra panel camera on that big display, 45 watt charging, 12 and 16 gigs of RAM, 256, 512, and 1 terabyte of storage. Come in those colors you see right there. IP68 with dust and water resistance, and a price tag of $15.99. I can agree with some of this stuff. Some of the stuff I don't agree with, and I'll talk about what I want to see and what I don't want to see. The first one being that I want this front display to be much bigger. I want it to be more of a regular sized phone, akin to what you'd get on whatever. I want it to be that thick, for instance. Like, why can't it be that thick? You know, just a little bit thicker. I'd also like this to be a little bit bigger. I'd like to see this screen go up to 8 inches. Why not? You know, give us more for our money. So 8 inches on here, and then, you know, this is already 6.2, but it's like, it can stay 6.2, just make it a little bit wider. I think I'd use it for sure more on the front display if it was like that. To add on to that, I'd like to see a bigger battery, 5,000 plus milliamps. I'd like to see a lot better battery life in this phone. We can make it a little bit more heavy. I mean, it wouldn't bother me if definitely if at least got better battery life. The camera is definitely, without a doubt, like you said, that under panel camera needs to be improved tenfold. It's garbage. And then the cameras overall, especially in low lighting, they're kind of crappy when you're taking pictures of people. I'd like to see those improved as well. Let's get the cameras to the point where they can compete with an S21 Ultra and so on and so forth. Like, they really need to improve the cameras on this phone overall. Storage, I'm fine with a 256, 512. I know more people would like, you know, a terabyte. Might even want your micro SD card expansion in there. That's not really that big of a deal. For me, the IP68, you know, it has IPX8, which is water resistance. But I would love to see, sure, add the dust resistance in there too. Why not? Especially if it improves what people want in the phone. Beyond that, I don't know if there's much more that I would kill to have. The screen is plenty fine with me in terms of the quality of it, the brightness of it, how it looks. The price, it would be great for $15.99. I think they will get there. I don't know, next year, I wouldn't be surprised, but I guess we'll wait and see. S Pen integration, I know some people want that. That'd be really cool to have if they can end up doing that for us. So that way we don't have to put it in a separate case, and it will also get the Bluetooth functionality along with it. 45 watt charging would be really great. I'd kill for 65 watt. I think that would be the next frontier of getting this charged even faster. But with that said, that'll be a question today. What would you like to see happen in the Galaxy Z Fold 4? Put it in the comments down below. We'll just list it all out for us. With that said, let's jump to the Q&A portion of the video and drop that beat! First question of the day comes from Zach Schleik. What do you think will be better, the Pixel 6 Pro, the S22 Ultra? I kind of talked about this yesterday or the other day before that. It's really going to depend. If you need the S Pen integration, obviously the S22 Ultra is going to be a much better phone for people. I think the pictures are still going to come out better with people, I feel like in my eyes, with the Pixel 6 Pro versus the Galaxy S22 Ultra. But with that said, I don't think the camera on the S22 Ultra will be any slouch. I think performance will be very, very similar. Obviously, I think the S22 Ultra on paper will be a much better phone. Not much better, but a better phone. But when it comes to day-to-day usage, I think people will probably be happy with either one of them. D-Magic, what are the chances you think Samsung nails dustproof in the Fold 4? I think it's gonna happen. I think they probably could have hit it this year, but maybe they wanted to keep it out, and I think they will hit it this year. Bandair Abraham, I have a question, please. Is the size of the pen that comes with the Tab S7 or any other tablet the same size as the S21 Ultra's pen? No, the ones on the tablets are bigger and thicker. Silent Runner speaks. Have you used skins much? I just bought an Extreme skin, which apparently is coming from Europe, which was a lot cheaper than D-brand, which I've used in the past, but find that it can be pricey. Also, how do you add shortcuts to the lock screen on the Pixel 6? I haven't really, I think I did skins one time. I can't even remember. I don't use skins barely ever. I don't use skins on my phone. I think I did a video on them previously. I can't remember which ones. I can't even remember the name of it. I think the company went out of business actually. And then to add, adding shortcuts to your lock screen on Pixel 6, I don't know offhand. I have to look it up, and if I do, I'll make a video of that. Abid has a question saying, please answer. Question: my $200 Oppo A92 with Google Camera takes better photos in every aspect than my $1,400 S20 Ultra. Why? That's the magic of the Gcam, which you can install on your S20 Ultra too. You should be able to. So look up the Gcam installation for the S20 Ultra. You can do the same thing and get probably just as equal, or if not better, photos. Last question comes from Sergio Shazada. Greg, do you think Samsung will compete with other Android competitors in charging speed? Because right now the average is 65 to 67, wired charging 50 watt charging, something you see on OnePlus 9. So this is a really, really long question with refresh rates and things like that. I don't think Samsung's, well, the rumor is they're going to go to 65 watt this year, which would be in the ballpark of some of these other companies. But I think the other companies, especially the ones from China, are going to continue to outclass it and outclass it and outclass it in terms of the speed that they charge at. I don't think they'll ever catch up. I think you'll probably see something similar to with refresh rates. I think you'll start seeing 240 on a lot of other phones, especially from China, and then very, very near future, and Samsung probably won't hit that for another couple of years, I would guess. But yeah, there you guys go. Thanks for your questions. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and we'll see you down the road. Peace.